be good. And then we can post it, and all the wonderful things that are said will be recorded for posterity. So as most of you guys know, Green Drinks is an international organization started by a bunch of Brits who like to drink in pubs. So Dee and I and Phil Gross kind of got this thing going. Was it 2 years ago? I think we should probably have a celebration of ourselves. Where
it is 2 years this month, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah. And Medicaluccios, and since COVID, we have been doing virtual, which is kind of cool because then folks like Charlie can come in and Rachel can come in, and Bill, I'm not quite sure where you live. So we get a broader bunch of people. So we're supported by the Sierra Club, the Citizens Climate Lobby, Plastic Free Delaware, Preservation Delaware, and Dee Durham. And we are nonpartisan, so we just like everybody to chat and have a good time and all that kind of good stuff, and share ideas. I just want to say two things. We haven't scheduled our next couple of speakers, but people who might be in the limelight, in the pipeline, are, what's his name, Jeremy Firestone from the University of Delaware, who will speak about, what is it, Peggy? What's his area again? Unmute.
Energy.
It's off wind, so offshore wind.
Public perception of offshore wind.
Cool. And we also have a feeler out to Daniel Mabe, who was part of the process of getting California, maybe you know about this, Rachel, to move in the direction of getting rid of gasoline-powered lawn equipment. So they're feelers we have out, and hopefully they'll get scheduled in the next little bit. I think that's all I need to say. Welcome any ideas for that you guys have for ideas for future people, because that's generally how the ideas come about. So Natalie, you want to say a quick thing about yourself and introduce Lydia, and she can take it away.
Okay, thank you. I'm Natalie McKenney. I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist, mostly retired. I'm also a member of IHB. And I am a proud member of the board for Healthy Foods for Healthy Kids. As I mentioned, I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, so I have a lot of interest in food, all aspects, eating, cooking, growing. Charlie, you mentioned that you had solar panels and electric car, but I'd like to know how many people here have a compost pile.
I do.
Pretty good. Because I'm also very interested in the problems of food waste and how it affects food insecurity and climate change. But anyway, I've been a board member of Healthy Foods for Healthy Kids, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And just recently we hired Lydia as our new executive director to take our organization to the next level as our founder sort of begins her retirement. We are growing a lot, which Lydia will tell you about, growing and changing. And she's only been with us since February, but so far so good. I think she's doing a great job. So let me tell you a little bit about Lydia. She spent nearly a decade working in international business development in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. She's been using her experience in corporate development and nonprofit management, coupled with her love of cooking. And I can attest, I'm on her Instagram page for cooking, and the stuff I see her cook is just amazing. Puts me to shame. And also gardening. She's very excited, and I definitely feel her enthusiasm to continue in the nonprofit sector with Healthy Foods for Healthy Kids to help vegetate the first state, which is kind of our motto. She holds a BS in International Relations, a BA in German Language Studies, and a BA in Russian Language Studies from Westchester University, where she graduated magna cum laude. She's also a former member of the Rotary Club of Philadelphia, a founding member of the Philadelphia Global Business Alliance, and sits on the Pennsylvania Advisory Council of the United States Global Leadership Coalition. She's also a Philly girl, and I'm from Philly, but like me, she has a great love for Delaware. So anyway, I'll let you go from here, Lydia.
Thank you, Natalie. And thank you everyone for having me. It's really lovely to meet you all, and I'm looking forward to telling you about healthy foods for healthy kids. So I just want to share my screen here for a moment. Oh, it says host disabled participant sharing screen.
Oh, here, fix that. Sorry about that.
No worries. While you're doing that, I'm going to open my office door because now Addie the monster is trying to get in. So one moment.
I'll go, we can maybe meet her.
All right. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. I'm just trying to make this a little bigger so I can see you all as well. Okay. So like Natalie said, our motto, our theme for HFHK is, we like to say we want to educate the first state. So I hope after hearing our presentation and learning about our organization, you would like to join along in our mission to put a school garden, or put a garden at every school in Delaware. Where's it gonna go? There we are. So what is our story? We were founded in 2008 by Dr. Thianda Manzara, who first came up with this idea after visiting the Edible Schoolyard in California. It's a really fantastic program and model, but the budget alone to run this program for one school was over $400,000. So she realized that that was a lot of money for one school, serving approximately 1,000 students, and realized that she could do it better, and she has. We started off with one pilot school in 2005, and we are proud to say that we are now in 37 schools statewide, serving over 14,000 students this academic year. Like Natalie also said, Thianda is retiring at the end of the year, so I'm coming on. She has had 25 years of experience in teaching, research, and biology, or research and as a professor. In her studies were in plant biology and genetics. And so you will see how that background has forged the way to the curriculum that she has helped develop as well, and for our education cultivation program. Our mission is to inspire healthier lives by providing youth with joyful school gardening experiences and the opportunities to eat the fresh vegetables they've grown. And our vision is a vegetable garden in every school, leading to generations of healthy families. We like to say we are the first state school garden experts, and we have a few keys to our success. First is that it is a simple and reproducible framework for gardening that makes our program attractive. It absolutely cannot be done without administrators or the teachers, because we're able to keep a small organization, yet partner with so many students because of the essential buy-in, the time buy-in that the teachers and the administrators agree to with our program and what we're doing. We also have our lessons that support the state and federal mandated standards, and recently updated our lessons to fit with the next generation science standards. There was obviously a lot that happened in 2020 But Theonda and the team were able to take really fantastic advantage of the quote unquote downtime of the schools not being open, and we're able to update all of our lessons. So we're really proud of the work that they've done, and we've even incorporated now videos. We were able to get a grant to hire a production company to make our lessons also virtual now. So that is something that we've also been working on and just finished. So this is the first academic semester that these videos are available. But the videos do not take away from the hands-on gardening, which is just so key to the joyful gardening experiences that our program brings to the students. So the hands-on lessons engage every single student in the school. And excuse me, Addie Monster is now growling that she needs to get out because she is a monster, right? Go ahead, Addie. Go ahead. Okay, sorry about that. And we have two growing seasons in the spring and fall, and our program is also possible for large public or private schools to grow seed to table during the school year. So our program in a pea shell. What do we grow? We grow cool weather, fast growing crops such as lettuce, kale, bok choy, satsui, peas, carrots, radishes, dill, basil, all of the crops that will be able to grow in the spring and the fall. Because of course school is not in session during the summer, we're not able to grow summer crops. But it allows us, because these are also fast growing, to have 2 harvests per growing season. We start planting in March and September, and then we harvest in May and November. And like I just said, there's 2 harvests per season. So what do we do with the harvests? They are brought to the cafeteria, where nutrition services prepares the vegetables for serving in the school cafeteria the next day. So all the students get to enjoy what it is that they've been growing. Oh, I just realized I did not update my presentation like I thought I did. Apologies here. But why we grow, like Green Drinks, we are really passionate about changing the little world around us. And so by getting vegetables into students' lives at a young age, we know that we're able to do this. They're learning science while being in the garden. And so that's why we grow. Education cultivation, that is what we call our program. We have each grade, and I'll be going through each of the grades here and what they learn that enjoys the hands-on gardening activities. And we want to make sure that every student in Delaware knows how to grow their own food. All right, this is so second grade, they prepare the soil. Their curriculum, they need to learn about soil particles. So they're the ones who go out first, and you'll see they have their cultivators. This is actually in one of our new schools down in Sussex County. We recently expanded to Kent and Sussex County this year. And this is Sussex Montessori. And they are excited to get in there and get dirty and get the soil ready. When we partner with the schools, we will lead the garden build, because we have gardens that fit to our standards that are also adjusted to the size of the school and the school's needs. So we will work with organizations like Master Gardeners, school volunteers, and build the garden in one day. And it's a pretty massive undertaking, but we have it down to a literal science. And so these gardens were built in early 21, and the students had their first growing season in 21 as well, because we're able to build the garden in one day. So you can literally start planting the very next day. But you'll see, like I said, they're using the cultivators. They learn the differences between soil and dirt. and about soil compositions and properties. So the next special job, as we like to say in the garden, is of course planting. After you prepare the soil, the next step is planting, and that is kindergarten and first grade. The students learn about seed structures, how to properly plant the seeds. We provide teachers with materials, with actual like planting packets, so they learn how to read the instructions on the back of the packets. They use trowels to prepare furrows and learn about the planting depth according to not just the seed packet instructions, but also the size of the seed. They learn that lettuce seed needs to be planted at a much shorter distance than a bean seed, for example. And so after you plant, of course, you have to water. Third grade learns about watering systems and plant life cycles. So they are the ones that go out for the first 2 weeks and hand water until seeds sprout. You'll notice there's some lines that are running through the garden. We do have a drip irrigation system that then kicks in after the first 2 weeks. So that way we can ensure that the plants are getting the water that they need. And it makes, of course, life a lot easier on all staff and administrators as well. And then we have, of course, fourth and fifth grade. So they both do the harvesting because, again, we do have 2 harvests. Fourth grade learns about plant structure and function, and fifth grade also learns about matter in the cycle of matter in ecosystems. So they have a second special job in the garden, and that is coming out to clean and compost. So they get really excited, of course, when it is harvest time. They know that these vegetables will be enjoyed in the cafeteria the next day. And if the student is able to start the school at the same time that our program is there in kindergarten, by the time they are in fifth grade and matriculating out of the school, they will have had every single job in the garden and had those hands-on learning experiences. I'm gonna skip through a little bit here. This was at Shortridge.
What kind of vegetables did we pick out of our community garden today? And what kind of smoothie did we make? What did we have in our smoothie? What kind of fruits and vegetables? Strawberry, banana, blueberry, raspberry. Eating healthy food for healthy kids.
So you can see they get really excited. They don't always get smoothies for their harvest celebration. This was a special time, but it's really amazing to see the joy on their faces when they're able to enjoy these fresh vegetables. So we are in 37 schools statewide, including 5 new gardens in 21. And this is the full list in alphabetical order for you. So I'll leave it up here for a moment for you to just take a look at, see if there's one in your neighborhood. All right. I can go back to that too. So we, as a nonprofit, of course, are always looking for help, and help comes in different forms. We have volunteering opportunities. We are looking for support for the gardens and harvest days. If there's a garden near you and you're interested in partnering or getting to know the garden coordinator at the school, we would certainly put you in touch with them. That is something like adopting a garden. Also, of course, donating if possible. We have funders and grantors and really great friends that keep us going. Our next fundraiser is Giving Tuesday, which will be in November, the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And if you are interested in volunteering, please shoot me an email. I will put you on our list because we are also working on creating a volunteer internal database for when we have certain events like a garden build where we need support for one day to get this garden up and going. And to stay in touch with me, there's all of my contact information as well as our social media. If you are interested in signing up for our newsletter, please let me know. I will add you to our mailing list as well. And we love to be able to stay in contact with people. We send out quarterly newsletters, so it's nothing too crazy. You're not getting weekly updates from me, but lots of fun pictures of the gardens and of the students and celebrating our continued statewide expansion as well. So thank you very much. Are there any questions? I'd love to answer them.
Lydia, it's Nancy Hannigan. I do have a question. I love the presentation, by the way. It was wonderful. You said you're in 37 schools. Are they all elementary and middle?
Most, yes, elementary and middle. Once you get into high schools, the science gets a lot more complicated. It is something that I'm interested in having a discussion about, but we do mostly work in elementary and middle schools.
Okay, thank you. I ask with an ulterior motive. I volunteer from time to time with Urban Promise, which serves disadvantaged kids around the city. And they operate a small high school on North Market Street, which is putting in, started last year, but it's putting in a very nice garden on a side lot. And,
oh, wow, okay.
And I was actually there today. They were planting, but they've got, they involve the kids at every step of the way. They've got a pollinator garden and a vegetable garden, and now they're going to put in a shade garden and so on. So they're learning how to garden, but they're also going to eat the food and so on. So I was wondering how the two groups might be able to, interact with one another. So.
Well, Nancy, I've heard of them. I've not had any contact with them. I would love an introduction, and whoever the contact person is there, maybe we can grab some coffee and have a chat and see where it goes.
Sure, maybe I can connect you in with it. At the moment, they only have it at the Urban Promise High School, but they do have funding from Whole Foods. They call it Whole Kids, and Whole Kids has said if we would like to apply for money for one of the elementary schools of Urban Promise, to get in touch with them. So they might want to connect and learn more about how you do it. So,
that would be really wonderful. I would appreciate that.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Lydia, I have a question as well.
Uh-huh.
So how do you determine what schools you're going to put in gardens in? Is it a request of the school itself, or do you reach out, or is it a combination?
It's a combination. We mostly are in Kenton, Sussex, Newcastle County. So right now our main focus really is expanding into Kent and Sussex. And we do have funding for gardens there. So we are in the process of reaching out to administrators, of using our network, because we have this availability and would like to, use the money up so we can get more gardens going. But it really is a combination of the school reaching out, of us meeting with other people, and so both.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm just thinking of a couple of schools. Well, both of my son and his wife are both school teachers, elementary teachers in the county. And then I'm also considering the third school that was just built recently, Laurelwood Grove down in Whitehall, has the space for it, which would be wonderful. I'm going to move down there myself, but I could just see a future of having a garden down there. It would be one of my dreams. especially
I'll
since
tell you a
I'd
little
like to
secret,
support it.
Sharon. I'm already in touch with them.
Oh,
They
good.
reached
That's
out
good
to
to
us,
hear.
yeah.
Well, my
So,
my son is in Richardson Park, so he's got the inner city schools.
So Richardson Park, they have their own garden, and they were once a part of Healthy Foods for Healthy Kids as well. Then they just went off running with the garden program and sort of, I guess you could say, graduated from our support and are running the program by themselves.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
so on that note, what is the commitment from the school and the teachers?
So the commitment comes in different forms. It first starts with, of course, the garden build. We need to make sure that they are there to help with the build because we want it to be a mutual partnership. And it gives them a little stake in it as well. They are also supposed to find their own funding, or most of their funding. We do help with that. We suggest different grants to apply for and give examples, and are happy to handhold. But unless we already have a grant for it, it is the school's responsibility for the funding. And then there needs to be a garden coordinator. So that person is in charge of being our liaison. We reach out to the school before every growing season to see if they are interested in growing. Not everyone grows twice a year. That is, of course, the goal, but it doesn't always happen that way. And then we give a list of the different crops, and they're the ones who are able to choose which ones that they want to grow in the garden, because we want to make sure that they're interested in it. If there's something that the kids really enjoyed last year, maybe we'll grow it again to keep that excitement going. Those types of little nuanced conversations. We remind them to change the timer of the water at specific times. When at first it'll only need 20 minutes of water twice a day. Once they get to be larger, the plants to be a little larger, then we'll change it to 30 minutes twice a day. So we need to know that there is somebody there who will be able to sort of be our eyes and ears on the ground, essentially. We also drop off planting kits and classroom kits to help with the classroom lessons, and then, of course, with any of the gardening activities. They also, if there's any issues with the garden, we do provide technical support for the schools as well. For the first growing season, we will go into the schools and model the lessons for the teachers. So it's essentially teaching the teachers the lessons. And then if there's still help needed for the second growing season, we will also provide some of that in-house services, those in-house trainings. But after that, the school is then responsible for teaching and the lessons individually. So if there's any new curriculum updates or any new pamphlets or worksheets that we also provide that need to go out, that gets sent out to the garden coordinators, who also distribute it out to the teachers. Nutrition services needs to be heavily involved because they're the ones who will clean and prepare the vegetables for the school lunch. So there is a good amount of back end work that the teachers and the school do have to agree to in order to make this successful.
And I love the joyful experience. I think that's very cool.
Yes, it is. And it becomes addicting too, and really contagious. We've had garden coordinators who have they've been the garden coordinator for 10 years because they love it so much. Being able to see the students just get so excited for it never seems to get old. And I'm really excited to experience that as well.
That's very neat. Did any of the kids take this experience home and get their parents to work with them? Do you have any post-test kind of thing?
So we have worked on some post and pre-tests because we do try and collect data. It is pretty tricky to collect data from, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. So it is a work in progress. And we do hear some stories. Unfortunately, that is the one downside of our program. We do not have a lot of contact with the parents because essentially our contact stops with the teacher or with the garden coordinator. We don't really, get in front of the parents for them to even know that we're here, that this is part of our garden, or also to share a lot of those stories. So if we do get those stories, it's from parents sharing it with the teachers and then teachers sharing it with us. But we've had some really fantastic ones in Sussex Montessori. There was a student there who was so excited to show his grandparents what he had made in the garden, because at Sussex Montessori, they don't have a kitchen. So the students there were able to take their harvests home in their bag, and we sent recipe information and such with them as well. And he made dinner for his grandparents, and they just thought it was the best thing, and so did the students. So it actually made the school newspaper.
Oh, wow, that's very cool.
I agree. Any other questions?
I have one more that I don't know of other high schools, but my daughter is a teacher at William Penn High School, and they have a whole farm. And I mean, it's part of the curriculum, and they have a CSA, and they have chickens and goats and all sorts of crazy stuff. Is there any interface? I don't really know how that runs exactly, other than, she brings eggs home now and again. But is there any interface with that these kids are like interested in doing something like that in the future?
So we do work with Colonial School District, often. And we actually had Sionda, our founder, her retirement party on the 9th, October 9th. And that was at Historic Penn Farm. And they actually just dedicated their teaching garden at the school to her.
Oh, very nice. Very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. But I love their program. It is extremely in-depth. It is something to be proud of and marveled at. And I would, love to see something like that in every school, to be honest with you.
Kids learn to eat vegetables rather than those crazy commercials where you're supposed to put cheese on everything.
We have I can stop sharing my screen here, sorry. We have a bit of a famous quote internally here at HSHK. And it is a student who once said, I think he said it to either our program manager, Lindsay, or Sionda. He goes, "I never trusted a turnip." He's very serious about it. Well, now you do. Now you do.
Yeah.
And then, of course, somebody, I guess one of the former teachers, I can't remember who it was at the retirement party, made a comment that, it all tastes good dipped in ranch dressing.
Yes, which is true. Not really the point, but hey, if it gets them in there, then,
Have any other questions?
I don't really have a question, I guess, but maybe just a comment. This is Dee. You guys participated in our first Youth Environmental Summit back in February of 2020, I guess. And then last year we were virtual, so we didn't really, it didn't really, lend itself to that. But anyway, our summit is more for high school kids, but just, I think a lot of us on the on the Zoom tonight are, obviously environmentalists and whatever, and have an interest too, and just sort of the connection between what you're doing and, eating locally versus, buying things from 2,000 miles away or whatever, and just sort of, you know, educating kids towards that, and as they become adults, and just raising awareness about eating local and growing local. And I know there's a ton of urban gardens around, popping up all over the city, and it's just great to see what you're doing and how that fits into all those other activities that are going on as well. So thank you for what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and thank you.
I have a couple comments. I used to be on the Brandywine School Board, and this was like a pet peeve of mine. And thank you so much for doing this. I saw no reason why environmentalism and healthy nutrition couldn't be a part of an exciting curriculum. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Did you ever think of using the middle school, maybe, and maybe the high school to build raised beds? I saw a program out in Colorado Springs. They actually had this big dome feature thing where it was a year-round greenhouse.
Mhm.
And that's one of the ways they involved the high school kids. And they also they built the garden big enough to support the community too, year round.
Mhm.
And it was a low income community, so it was great. And they had full cooking classes. And I know there's some schools that have a high school cooking program, and to integrate that together would be fabulous. And I'd love to see like FPS, or I think I saw Hambio on your list.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That would be a perfect area for a good sized community garden.
So we have used high school shop classes before to help build the beds, because we do raised beds. And it's not something that happens too often. We are working right now with an Eagle Scout who is going to build a fence for a new garden that's going into Carcross Elementary. And our gardens are big enough to have a community garden, to have a summer garden. So we don't have that program because we stick with the academic year calendar. But there are certain schools who have chosen to, like, if they have a teacher who is very active in gardening or what, to have a community garden. And at Springer Middle School, this is in our new impact report. Springer Middle School did not grow during, they grew in the summer, their garden, and they yielded 556 pounds of garden produce from their 19 beds that they have, and provided fresh produce to Forget-Me-Not families and the Claymont Community Center food closet throughout the year. And supplied
that's amazing. That's
salads.
Great.
Yeah. They supplied produce for salads for a homeless community and approximately 40 seniors. So we really encourage the schools, or if there's a local community garden or community group that wants to use the gardens during the summer, to use them, because we actually put them to bed for the summer and cover them so weeds don't come. So we have an easier time in the fall. The only thing that we would require for that is for the gardens to be completely cleared out in order for us to start planting in September.
Sure, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, I do. I have another question, Jill. Sorry. My sort of observation, I guess, on projects like this is that often it's, one particular teacher maybe gets excited about this idea and really takes the lead on it. So is that something that you've experienced, that, like, let's say, you have one really enthusiastic person that takes the lead and gets it going, and then maybe they leave, and you know, it's hard maybe to keep the program going. Do you run into that, or are they all really, by the time they get established, you have so many people involved that carrying things on is not a problem?
It is both, but you know, these types of projects certainly are very people driven and not so much organizational or company or school, you know, as an institution driven, right? You really need those champions to be there and being your cheerleader throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, we have, by the time we really get in there and all the teachers do go through a few growing seasons and they see the excitement, we are able to keep a school on, even if that enthusiastic garden coordinator does leave, because by that time somebody else will also have caught that bug and be able to take their place. So we haven't had, the only school really that has quote dropped out is Richardson Park, but they have morphed it into, from my understanding at least, their own. And every other school has maintained their program.
That's awesome. That's great.
And Rehoboth Elementary did have to drop out because they switched schools, but we are actually planning to build a new garden at their new school. I believe November 13th is the date that we're looking at. So they are back in school and ready to get back to growing.
I have a comment and a question.
Mhm.
I grow lettuce and herbs in my basement hydroponically.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if there was any interest in that.
That's a very good question. And there has been some talk about hydroponics, and that is, when we were talking about it, we actually thought it would be a really great segue from elementary into high school to use hydroponics, because there's a lot that goes into it and a lot more that you can do. And of course, then there's also the year-round growing aspect of it as well. It has been mostly pie in the sky conversation, nothing substantial, but there really is a lot that you can do with it. And if there was a, you know, Jeff Bezos who wanted to give us a really fantastic endowment, I am all about putting that program together and getting it into the schools.
Okay. I have a lot of hydroponic equipment, you know, that I could probably share.
Well, I'm going to write your name down, Bill. And should the conversation go any further, I will reach out. You can't see it, but this light that is illuminating my face right now,
Yes.
in my very dark office, is actually my own little arrow garden. So I'm growing
Okay.
some things in there as
Okay.
well. And thank you for that offer.
Okay, sure.
Any other questions?
Going
Well, thank-
once?
I was just going to say thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure to meet you all, and I appreciate this opportunity.
And I was going to say thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you, Natalie, for putting this all together. You are wonderful, and I know we've talked about composting, and it's kind of seed to compost. I mean, the
Whole cycle.
the full cycle, the environmental cycle, and I have a very shady yard, but my neighbor grows lettuce, and I hope these kids realize how different lettuce tastes
Oh my gosh.
when it's out of the garden as opposed to when it's cellophane wrapped and comes from the grocery
I
store.
know.
As with everything else. So
Yeah.
it's a whole joyful tasting experience for kids. So I appreciate your organization giving kids that opportunity to get their hands dirty and learn how to garden. I mean, that's the American way. So
Agreed.
thank you. So our next meeting is, I have to look at my calendar, February 15th. So put that on your calendar and I will be in touch with everybody and let you know who our speaker is, and we are good to go. So have a wonderful, and Charlie's on here, fun couple of weeks in between. So thank you. Robert, you keep popping in and out. I don't know who you are, but thanks for joining.
Good night.
All
See you
right, good
later.
night.
Thanks, everyone.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy.